of agenda, including consent agenda. You have the collector's treasurer's report summary, November 2021. The investment report, November 2021. Final pay request, American Electric and Data Inc., Lions Lake Pavilions. The final payment request for landscape structures, Phoenix Park Playground. Liquor license renewals, taxi cab business license renewals. Rabies clinic, May 12th through May 12th and 19th, 2022.
Oh, no. Can't close the door. Thank you. Go ahead. Keep going, Sherry.
Street closure request, May 7th, 2022 for the firefighters of Missouri Convention Parade. And you have two blighter items that'll be on your agenda. Item 3C will be the public hearing for the planned development district. Item 3D will now be the planned development district ordinance. So it'll read 3A, B, C, and D. And item A will be the preliminary plat approval for Highland Meadows Plat 6. Item B will be the ordinance for the final plat approval for Highland Meadows Plat 6. And item C will be the preliminary plat approval for Highland Meadows Plat 7. So items 8 will go A, B, C, and D. I'm sorry, yeah. Yep. And I just need a motion.
Need a motion, folks.
I'll make a motion.
A second.
Motion so made by Patke, seconded by who?
Holtmeyer.
Holtmeyer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Priority items, this will be for the city council elections. Election of mayor pro tem.
I'd like to nominate Jeff Packey for Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, we got a nomination for Jeff Patke. Any seconds?
I'll second it.
And a second by Briggs.
Discussion.
In discussion.
Any other?
I'd like to nominate Mark Idrich.
Okay. And is there a second for Mark Hydrich?
Second.
Okay. Second for Mark Hydrich.
I'm sorry, who made the motion for Hydrich?
Dwayne.
Dwayne.
Reed.
And then who seconded?
Mark Wessels made
Wessel
the-
Thank you.
seconded it.
Sorry, I got the two marks mixed up. Pardon me, guys.
Good.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Any other discussions
Nominations?
or nominations? Okay, I guess we vote.
Okay,
Entertain a
we'll
vote
vote
first.
for Packey to be mayor pro tem first.
Yes.
Bear,
Aye.
Briggs,
Aye.
Coulter,
Nay.
Hydrich,
Nay.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Packey,
Yes.
Reed,
No.
Wessels.
Nay.
You have a tie.
You get your first one.
Wow.
Right out of the gate.
Okay. Let's make it quick. I say yes.
So does that? Okay, so we're good on that then, right? Okay. So then we have Jeff Patkey as mayor pro tem.
Correct.
The next one is for election of council member to P&Z Commission.
Have any nominations?
Okay. Motion to elect, sorry. We need a motion to elect someone to the P&Z, Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'd like to nominate Mark Idrich.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Reed, seconded by Patke to nominate Mark Hydrich to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Any other nominations?
Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Mark Wessel.
Okay. Do I have a second? Don't hear a second. All right, I guess we need a vote on the first one. Okay. Motion to elect Mark Hydrich to Planning and Zoning Commission, seconded by, by, who nominated? I'm sorry, you guys.
Dwayne nominated.
Nominated, yep, and seconded by Jeff?
Yes.
Okay,
She's going to read the roll call.
okay, go ahead. All right. Any discussion? Okay.
Mark, do I need to do a roll call? Yes. Okay. Bear,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Coulter,
Yes.
Heidrich,
Aye.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Patke,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Coulter. I'm sorry, Wessels.
Okay, so, Mark, congratulations.
Thank you all.
Again.
Thank you.
Okay, 353.
I would make a motion to elect Councilman Bear.
Okay, motion by Heidrich to elect Councilman Bear. Do I have a second?
Yes. I second it.
Okay.
Reed,
Councilman Reed, second.
any other nominations?
Any other nominations?
Discussion?
Discussion. Okay. Roll call vote again? Okay.
Bear,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Coulter,
Yes.
Heidrich,
Aye.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Patke,
Aye.
Reed,
Yep.
Wessels.
8-0.
Okay.
Al, you're the 353. I think you'll find it interesting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Election of Board of Health.
Your Honor, I'd like to recommend for approval Councilman Al Bear, Councilman Mark Heidrich, Councilman Chad Briggs, and Councilman Mike Coulter for the Board of Health.
Okay, you have a motion by Patke,
I'll second that.
okay, and seconded by Holtmeyer. Did you get all of those that were so nominated?
Yes, sir, I sure did. I got Bear, Heidrich, Briggs, and Coulter.
Any discussion? Okay. Do we need a roll call? Yes. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Bear,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Coulter,
Yes.
Heidrich,
Aye.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Patke,
Aye.
Reed,
Yep.
Wessels.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor's presentations, appointments, and reappointments. Police Department reappointments.
Or no, you don't have to. He comes down there.
Evening, Council and Mayor. Officer Day, Officer Tollison. We have for you, before you, a reappointment of Officer Daniel Day and Officer Doug Tollison. Both are fine officers. They have served this city with distinction. Citizens can be proud of them. Officer Day is going to get an award next week, the 26th, from MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. He'll be one of 2 other officers in recognition of his efforts to combat driving while intoxicated in our community. And I think this is the 3rd year in a row you've gotten an award? 3 years in a row. And Officer Doug Tollison here is soon to be promoted come July 15th to sergeant and take over a squad. So you have fine officers here. I request a reappointment.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. Who made it? over here on
Holtmeyer.
this? Holtmeyer. Seconded by Heidrich to affirm the appointments of these gentlemen. Any discussion? Okay. Can we do all in favor? All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, you guys earned it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being here.
Public hearings, special use permit, 1807 East 5th Street.
We right here, so.
Good evening, Council. On your agenda tonight is a request for a special use permit for an indoor shooting range at 1807 East 5th Street. This is formerly Nick's Gun and Pawn, if you're familiar with it, just east of the former Packies. Here on 5th Street, the property is Zone C2 General Commercial. As at least probably half of you will remember, in 2019, we actually had a request on this same property for an indoor shooting range. At that time, they were actually proposing to do an expansion and then put in a shooting range. At that time, it did go to Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council and passed both boards. Our city code requires all special use permits to receive occupancy and commence use within 1 year of approval or else they expire. In this case, they didn't ever get the occupancy and commence use, so it expired. I think they mentioned at the planning and zoning meeting last week that the shortage in ammunition shorted that out, that it wasn't worth it to open a shooting range if they couldn't find any ammunition, and so that pushed it back further than a year, so that's why they're back here tonight. The only thing that changed with this application is they're actually not proposing the expansion at this time. They're going to be rehabbing the existing building and putting all of the lanes in the existing building. And so same as our recommendation was in 2019, this corridor of Fish Street varies from commercial to multifamily to actually light industrial. Right across the street here, you have light industrial. They have to show in their building permit that they're going to have sufficient equipment in the building to catch all the bullets, and then our noise ordinance is in effect for all commercial uses, that they have to make sure it's all contained inside the building anyway. So we don't see any detriment to the surrounding properties. The planning and zoning voted again last week on this unanimously in favor, and staff also recommends approval.
We have those such regulations in our code?
Well, it's not specific to a shooting range. We have a noise ordinance that for commercial uses, that all commercial uses have to
Right.
meet, so.
So the way they build it, they don't have to work, as long as the noise is contained, they don't have to have a special wall inside or anything like that, as long as the noise is contained.
The building department may have it for occupancy. They did have it on their application that they're gonna have reinforced walls to catch the bullets, but.
We talked about that in 2019, but we never went forward with the final, so we never knew how it was built, if we had anything in our code for that.
I mean, to ask a specific detail of the building code, I wouldn't know that off the top of my head. If there is anything specific to shooting ranges, I do not think there is a code section for that in the building code.
And that would be reviewed prior to occupancy, not on the zoning. So unless there's something that, like in the fire code, the fire chief has jurisdiction to have extra requirements on a case-by-case basis. I don't know if the building department could have that prior to occupancy as well.
I mean, the authority having jurisdiction has the ability to basically, put any requirement on there that they need to, but I can't think of a specific code section for shooting ranges. That being said, I haven't looked for one, so, we'll review that when it comes in.
Sal, didn't you, in your, in the notes there, it seemed to me there was something in there about, steel plates and concrete wall, et cetera, et cetera. And also that it was going to comply with similar facilities used by police departments and others. And so I would think maybe when they bring forth specific plans, that we could some way make sure that, it will indeed be safe.
Correct, yeah, and that was volunteered by the applicant, because this was for the zoning use. When it comes to the actual occupancy, the building department reviews all that to make sure it meets safety protocols, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
And again, for everybody, there was no residents objective to this at all. Nobody was objective to this.
At planning and zoning, Mark, you're saying? Thank you.
As last time, when this even got brought up in 19, that time there was nobody, but yeah, at planning and zoning, there was nobody.
I think there was a few people that
Yeah,
read the
last-
previous one, but,
Oh, not that I could remember.
yeah.
This will be the first one of its kind in town, won't it?
Correct, we do not
Yeah.
have this use currently, so. Any other questions for me?
Any other questions of Sal, you guys?
Thank you.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
We
Not
got to
yet?
open up for public hearing. Go ahead and ask if anybody from the crowd.
Public comments. If anyone is interested on commenting this, please come forward.
Good evening, Council. My name is Dr. Jay Freeman. I'm the owner of Titan Hill Armory, formerly Nick's Gun and Pawn, and I simply wanted to make myself available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Well, Doctor, that's what my reference was. You abut a residential neighborhood.
Correct.
And I don't know what kinds of weapons will be used in the shooting range, but I obviously concerned that we don't have something that it's able to go through a wall and into a neighbor's yard and so forth,
Right.
That's why I'm saying when it comes time to actually do it, be it our buildings, our police department, whomever, that someone's able to assure that kind of thing won't happen.
Certainly, and safety is the number one concern. The construction of the range has a couple of different mechanisms to stop any bullets in the back. First and foremost is over 1,000 pounds of recycled rubber. That's actually the primary catch, followed by AR-500 steel that is bullet resistant, and concrete around it. The concrete actually surrounds the entire range area. That will prevent ricochets, random shots, et cetera, and direct them downrange into the bullet traps.
So you know everything we're talking about. We just don't have it in the city code to be specific about it, so.
Right.
Well, it'll be a learning curve through the process. That's all I'm asking. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I've never permitted a shooting range before, so it will take a little bit of effort to get caught up to that. But,
Right.
you know, any commercial development in town actually requires signed and sealed engineer plans, things like that, architect plans. So, I mean, we'll be able to work through these things.
Right. All four just had the questions of safety concern, no doubt. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you being here.
And one of the comments that was made was the reference in the zoning and planning committee about law enforcement utilization and similarity there. The equipment that we're using is from a company called Megit, and they actually provide all the mobile portable shooting ranges to the FBI and several other law enforcement agencies. So basically, it's industrial strength and design for safety is the number one concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, you guys? Or from the public? Okay. Entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Patke, seconded by Holdmeyer. All those in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
And against? Passed.
Okay.
Okay, next agenda.
An ordinance granting a special use permit at 1807 East 5th Street for an indoor shooting range in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Gotcha.
Introduced by Holmen.
Okay. Introduced by Holdmeyer. Okay.
Any other questions?
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Nope.
Nope,
Go ahead and do
sorry.
a roll call vote.
Okay, roll call vote then, Jerry.
An ordinance granting a special use permit at 1807 East 5th Street for an indoor shooting range in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer? Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?
Yes.
Ordinance passed. Congrats.
Item 3C is the public hearing for the planned residential code amendment.
Sal.
Okay, Sal, go ahead.
Thank you. So, John, if you don't mind scrolling up, sorry, I don't have a PowerPoint, I actually just have what was in the packet here.
All the way to the top.
Yes, please. So this was something that we discussed internally with staff a few months ago and then brought to Planning and Zoning Commission at their last meeting. So currently we have what's known as PD districts, planned districts, and they can go into three categories: PDR for planned residential, PDC for planned commercial, or PDM for planned mixed. And the intent of that section of code is to be able to allow a developer or property owner to ask for a very specific zone district, where essentially when it's a planned district, when they ask for the rezoning, they have to have their engineered and civil design plans all done up front, and then actually staff, planning and zoning, city council, and the public have the right then to comment on that, and it can be amended, and then that plan is actually adopted with the zoning. The reason for that, and again, the intent of that section of code is for the capability of allowing for case-by-case developments if there's something unique or peculiar about the site that they can't fit into a regular zone district. It basically allows for some flexibility for a developer to propose something a little bit more unique that they could fit into it, that, again, they wouldn't be asking for 8 variances. They're just saying, hey, this is what I'm proposing, here's the plans up front, and then it goes through the whole process, but that specific plan is adopted, meaning that the zoning is not wide open like a general commercial. That property, once the ordinance is passed, is only allowed for that use and that design of the plan. We have a couple examples of that. The International Shoe Factory utilized that Obviously, that building was up to the property lines, there was no setbacks on that, and then with having an existing three-story building, the density of that wouldn't have met our existing zoning code, so they went to planned residential. Another example of that was Locust Valley, the McBride Workforce Development. We worked with them on them 2 years ago. The way that that property sloped down and the development agreement we did with them needed a certain amount of homes that they needed to get narrower lots and shallower setbacks on the front. So they have 20 foot instead of 25. And with them donating the land for the trail, that scooted all the lots up. So kind of giving a little bit of background there, but our current code the code that was written in 2017, our consultants, PJV, wrote this for us. We always had planned districts in our city code, but they kind of redefined it and actually brought in some language from other communities that they thought maybe would fit better. And we've only had those two developments really since this passed. But the issue that staff sees with this is that in this planned district, the requirements, when it talks about density, it says that the developer has to pick an underlying district to set the density with, meaning they have to pick another zone district and have to match that density, which really contradicts the whole purpose of having flexibility, because like the shoe factory, they couldn't go R3. So if you had to pick the underlying density of R3 to match, they wouldn't be able to build what they wanted to build. Same thing with the other development. And so with both of those, they had to ask for variances of this portion when it got approved. And then actually Darren, John, and myself were sitting down talking about this and realized that the whole intent of this is allowing for flexibility, is to be able to allow for these developments to get approved on a case-by-case basis. There is staff review, there's planning and zoning review, and then there's city council review multiple times. It's not, they have to do preliminary review and final review. So there's ample time for all of us to look at this and comment if it fits into the neighborhood that they're wanting to develop in, or if there's really a reason why they can't just go for a regular zone district. So I don't know if, I can.
Yeah.
Yep, I wasn't sure if it let me scroll. So what you see here, crossed out in red, it looks like there is a lot crossed out here. On this PDR, it talks about, again, the density of a residential development shall be consistent with the intent of the original underlying residential district. Well, again, we don't necessarily have an underlying district. This isn't an overlay district. It's setting up its own district to be approved on a case-by-case basis. So we took out this entire section on density and how they calculate it and put in this paragraph that the density of a planned residential development shall be approved per the submitted plan. The Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council shall determine if the proposed density exceeds what is necessary and appropriate for the surrounding area, or if it fails to comply with the general standards set forth in Section G. And I want to point out that Section G really outlines these general standards that if the project creates an inadequate or unsafe situation for the neighborhood, then we have the authority to recommend denial anyway. And so I think that it's kind of, we already have the catch-all here to say, hey, look, this development is too dense, or you have, the setbacks are too shallow, whatever it is. We have the authority to say if it has an inadequate or detriment to the surrounding property, and that kind of gives us our catch-all there. And so that is what we are proposing, to replace the density requirement with this. Again, that would just allow the same type of project we saw at the shoe factory and at the Locust Valley. And again, this is not necessarily just opening up for a free-for-all. Every single planned development is approved on a case-by-case basis. And so that allows us to review it, and if it doesn't fit in, we can still make the same recommendation we would have prior. This did go to Planning and Zoning Commission for review last week, and they did vote unanimously to approve the change. And I'll take any questions.
Any other questions, you guys, of Sal?
So you're not looking to really copycat everything else we already have. You're just looking to streamline this to meet an individual project.
Correct. It's to allow a truly case-by-case review.
Okay. I
Because
read it as though we wanted to keep things the same as we did here, we do there, but this is just a case-by-case basis.
it would be really hard for me to imagine a situation where someone would come in with a planned residential district and say they're going to pick an underlying zoning density, because if they could meet that underlying zoning density, then they wouldn't be coming for a planned district. They would
Right.
just be going to that zone district. So I'm not gonna lie, when this was approved and when PJV wrote this, we just kind of said, okay, you're the consultant, and now after we've had 2 developments go through it, it doesn't meet our intent of what we want.
Mark, real quick, if a plan comes in, city council has the ability to comment on that plan and then require things on that plan as well, correct?
Yep.
Correct. Just want to make sure that's clear to everyone.
I called Sal because I found the thing kind of confusing, and it also looked like just a way to open up, you know, if you don't like the way we've zoned some things, here's how you can get around or something, you know. So I called Sal, and he explained, and pointing out that those are the only 2 that we have. And I can remember we spent a lot of time on each of those, looking at specifics and everything
yes.
else. So,
And
so I felt a lot more comfortable knowing, you know, how it's set up.
There is, if we meet with the developer and we feel after hearing the proposal that we'll let them know if there's not a reason they need to go to a planned district. For 2 reasons. One, if they're really just trying to get around regulations, we can say, look, we're not gonna recommend approval of this. 2, there is a lot of risk for a developer going to a planned district where city staff is already going into it with recommendation of denial, because they have to pay for the engineering and civil plans up front before they turn in their application. And so that could be thousands of dollars for their application when they know that they're gonna get a recommendation denial up front. And so that's why there's a lot of meetings beforehand where we kind of say, hey, look, we think that you can meet an existing zone district. Say, if the shoe factory had the room and could have gone to regular R3 multifamily, we would have recommended that first before they went through the hoops of a planned district. And the planned district is meant, and we're taking out some requirements here, but the process is still the same. It's, you know, it's a rigorous process. There's multiple reviews. You have to have a preliminary review approved by council, and then you have to come back with finalized plans and have a final set approved by council. So it has to be a pretty significant development that the developer is confident to take the risk in.
One other example that you had was, and it was prior to these code changes in 17, was the MacArthur Park, when they redid the Brown Shoe Factory. At that time, it was we had a senior community district at that time. We removed that in 2017, but it had language very similar to this that allowed that development to go through. So it's kind of reverting back to, like I said, those unique developments that would have never been able to go ahead and reuse those buildings if we wouldn't have recognized that.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is actually reflecting closer to what would have been R4 back in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Other discussion? Do we need a motion?
No, we need an open, it's still a public hearing, so see if the public has any.
Okay. Anyone in the public care to comment?
Hi, I'm Carrie Klinking. Do you need my address? Okay. I just have a couple of questions that I think we need to consider. And I am not an expert in planning and zoning by any stretch of the imagination. However, it appears to me that this is opening it up to let there be less restriction for more high-density housing in the city. And I just will urge council to consider what all is involved when you bring in multiple high-density housing developments, what that does for the economy. It might bring in people, it might bring in lower income or lower price point housing, but is this just another way of getting around? Because what you are telling us, what I'm hearing, is that the developments that I believe were good, you know, the MacArthur
Park.
Locust, about Locust, but, and then the shoe factory were positive things, but they were still able to do them. It just took more legwork. It sounds to me like this is just opening it up to make it easier for more high-density housing. That's my comment.
Anyone else?
Anyone else want to comment? Okay.
Entertain a motion to accept into the minutes.
I entertain a motion to accept it into the minutes.
Make a motion.
Second.
Oldmeyer made the motion, seconded by Patke, to accept the ordinance into
Or
the
no, it's not the
minutes.
ordinance, it's just accept into the minutes.
Into the minutes, that's correct. There's a difference. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So that passes, and it will be accepted into the minutes.
And then she goes into the ordinance.
Okay?
An ordinance amending section 400.115 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri relating to planned development districts.
Patke.
Introduced by Patke.
Okay, introduced by Patty.
Any other discussion?
Any other discussions, you guys? Okay, I'll entertain a
Oh,
motion.
she goes ahead and does
Go
it.
ahead, Sherry. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
An ordinance amending section 400.115 of the Code of the City of Washington, Missouri relating to planned development districts. Wessels,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Patke,
Aye.
Hydrich,
Aye.
Holtmeyer,
Aye.
Bear,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance passed. And citizens' comments are next.
Yes, that's correct.
Citizens' comments?
Anybody in the public?
Anybody sitting down there care to comment during this section about anything
Other than what's on the agenda.
other than what's on the agenda? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hawkins. I've moved here in the past year or so.
Excuse me,
and
can you state your full name and your address,
Hawkins
please?
Farr. I'm in Washington Heights. You said full address?
Yes, please.
2201 Ashton Court Hills, Washington, Missouri.
Welcome to Washington.
Thank you. I want to wish you all congratulations and God bless you all for your elections. I'm glad you all were able to successfully win whatever campaigns you were running. I do have just one question for Doug Hagedorn. I have a minor fear I wanted to ask you is that I read a letter saying that you and some national security, I see the laughter, so I just want to open up there. It said that you voted for Biden and his leftist administration. I just wanted to see an explanation of why and if you have any comment for that.
I will not comment on that. That's
Okay.
totally irrelevant to the city council.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay? What's next?
John, do
Any
you
other
have anything?
comments?
Yeah,
Department heads.
Report of department heads?
Yes, good evening, council. Wanted to give everyone a quick update on a couple paving projects we had completed, or mostly completed today. 4th Street was done, Sunnyside, Huxell Drive, and 4th Street. That would end that contract. There will be some button-up items done, some grading work, minor things like that. So that would essentially get that project kind of completed. The intersection here, we did lower that down by about 1.5 inches. So some minor things like that. So if you recall, the intersection here actually held water for quite some time up until the ADA ramps were done a couple years ago. So it just gives you some idea what those things kind of look like. We are moving into our next paving projects. It will be bid in the next couple weeks. Pretty substantial paving job. It will have less concrete work, but kind of still focusing kind of on the west end of town. The concept there is we'll transition into next year going on the east end of town. We do follow, it's called a PASER rating, PASER rating. So we rate every street in town every single year to determine what our next phase of projects are. I do have some concerns regarding budget, what these bids are going to come in at. We do set our bid plans up to where streets can be removed from a bid package should they bid over budget, or you as council can make a decision to proceed with the bidded package. So it just gives you some idea of kind of how we do things in the engineering department. So if you have any questions, let me know, but just a couple updates on some paving jobs.
John, what,
Yes, sir.
early this morning, there was a lot of noise out on South Point Road. Some old people were trying to sleep, but I just, yeah, South Point, out by the new water tower, they're tearing up pretty good. What, is that the new water line coming out, or?
Yeah, yeah, that was our guess. It's good. I don't know what that time was, but yeah, so we're extending a 12-inch water main to the new tower, which will be at North Goods Mill and South Point Road. City staff is doing that work. We'll set a fire hydrant right there. The contractor, when that job's designed, bid, and constructed, will then tie off of that water line to tie the tank into the system. But the city opted to do that work as a cost-saving measure, so it shouldn't take too long to get done, so. We're trying to get that done prior to the Washington Special Road District paving South Point Road, because again, we don't want them to pave the road and then us come through and then tear it up with a water line, so we try to kind of marry those things up. Sorry about that early start. I'll pass
Sorry
that
about
along.
your loss of sleep, Mark.
It's rough.
Next time you say certain old people, just say me. Okay?
Gotta have a nap,
I would never question. So,
Every day's supposed to be Saturday when you're retired.
Do you have anything else, John?
no, ma'am.
Ordinances and resolutions. An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a professional services agreement with H3 Studio in the city of Washington, Missouri, and amend the 2022 budget.
Holtmeyer. Introduced by Holtmeyer.
Okay, introduced by Holmeyer.
Yes, good evening. So, back on your agenda tonight, I know we talked about this at the workshop last month, and then for anyone else who wasn't here, we had a planning and zoning committee, or a comprehensive plan committee, that interviewed 4 different firms for our comprehensive plan. We redo that every 10 years, so 2003, 2013, and then we'll be doing, or 90, I guess 93 was the last time when we started the 10-year in the 93. But in 2023, we started our next 10-year plan. We have selected H3 Studios to complete the plan. It will be a complete overhaul of our comprehensive plan, a review of our existing plan, our existing conditions, city code, and then goals and objectives moving forward for the next 10 years. We were very comfortable with that firm. They had a lot of experience, some local connections to existing projects and subcontracting with local firms, and then as well as providing an opportunity to also do an economic development strategy and workforce analysis, which we have done 3 of those studies: the comp plan, workforce analysis, and economic development strategy in the past, but by different firms in different years. This will allow us to have one firm complete an analysis, wrap it up into 2 documents, one strictly on workforce and economic development, one on the comprehensive plan, but really have the data and goals tied together. And so we have tonight the contract with H3. It has on there, I think they have like a worst case scenario 18 months, but we're anticipating about a 10-month review. They were comfortable with that. As long as it gets adopted and initiated in 2023, we really have no issue with that schedule, so that gives us a little wiggle room. But again, it is the comprehensive plan for Article 1, and then Article 2 is the economic development analysis and workforce analysis. And then in the ordinance as well is a budget amendment to pay for this. We have in there about 90,000 of it was already budgeted previously in this budget year, but the contract came in when we combined multiple facets of it with a total of 135,000, and that again would go into the next budget year, but we thought let's just go ahead and get a budget amendment now so we can have it done with. But in the budget amendment, I have 75,000 coming from planning and zoning and 10 from economic development. Again, that was originally planned. And then 17,000 from the transportation sales tax. That was specifically pulled out. The traffic engineer, Lockmiller Group, had said they anticipate to have their fee about 17,000, so that's why we took that from the transportation sales tax. Stormwater, the fund will pay for 18,000 of it. Again, we spoke to the H3 Studios, and they confirmed that they will have, as part of this, a stormwater analysis and how we fit into MS4 with future growth and make sure we are meeting all DNR and MS4 guidelines, which obviously is a requirement. And so we took a portion of that out of stormwater. And then there is a donations change in there for 15,000. We will be soliciting 10,000 from the IDA and 5,000 from the Washington Civic Industrial Corporation at their next meetings because of the benefit this will have to economic development and the economic groups. We'll be soliciting funds from them.
Since the last Councilman weren't here before. Could you go over that this is not the first time we're doing this and that we're making a better effort to getting it all in one
Correct.
place?
So we have, like I've mentioned, we have multiple plans we've completed in the past, and this is just a quick highlight, but we've had a downtown revitalization plan that was done in 2004. We have the comp plan that was done in 2013, a workforce analysis in 2014, and then an economic development strategy done in 2015. So all of them are a little bit dated now, especially when it comes to workforce, just how things change quickly, and then also now with a lot of the working remote and wage change and the lack of workforce we kind of have right now, we thought it was definitely time to add that to it. And in this conversation, and obviously 10 years was up on the comp plan, we asked the firms if they would be able to combine that into one bigger document with overlapping goals and objectives. And then we definitely, our current comp plan is not a book that just sits on a shelf. Our staff uses it all the time. We use it when we're guiding our decisions with major developments, or when we're coming up with our own goals and objectives, we make sure we try and match that. One big step up that I'm excited about, and I think most of the department heads will be appreciative of, this new comp plan will have an implementation chart that is broken down into individual goals and objectives that they're going to come up with after public input, community surveys, business surveys, meetings with city staff, and actually have which department will be responsible for that, a timeline, if it's a medium, short, long-term goal, which kind of guide them on in the next 10 years when they should be focusing on it, and it'll actually break it down into a rough cost estimate so they can know when to start budgeting for it, and it's kind of like you'd see in a, look at an online menu, it'll have a number of dollar signs to show you how expensive it'll get, but every year that way when Darren's meeting with department heads, we can, instead of come up with new goals and objectives, we could look at this comp plan and it'll say, stormwater, wastewater, or the public works department wanted to work on this infrastructure according to the comp plan, and we can follow that for the next 10 years. And hopefully it'll make it easier for us to actually stay on top of our goals and objectives as city staff, rather than right now when projects come in and ideas come up, we go through the comp plan to make sure it'll fit, but it's not necessarily we're following a step-by-step action plan. And that's something that both the economic development study and this new comp plan will give action items for each department.
I will say for the workforce and the economic development strategy, the last one I think we had done was 14, is that correct? Or was it 15?
Yeah.
So when industries look to go ahead and see if they want to go ahead and occupy or come to our community, and that's either a new industry or that's even when we've got our existing industries that when they're looking to expand, they want to know what are those wages out there. They want to know what's the demand with regards to the skilled workforce. And so any information that's, beyond 2 to 3 years is irrelevant. It just doesn't, it's not current, and so it doesn't do any good. So it is something that's been needed for a while. We did in the past have some support with some of our utility companies because it's in their best interest to go ahead and have these expansions as well. And they've contributed, as well to the plan, and then they just ask cities to go. But it's been a while since we've had one of those. And so I think we feel comfortable with this. Bob Lewis, thank you, has been in the St. Louis area, done economic development analysis for other communities. He's got a long history of it, so we feel that we're in good hands with this group.
Sal, we're currently using the 2013 comprehensive plan. I guess not against it, but if we totally rebuild, totally revamp, can we keep in mind of those things that we are changing, that are substantial changes from the 13 plan to the new plan?
Absolutely.
And highlight those whenever something does happen, as whether it's a developer or whether it's us, that we see, this is what we planned on, what we've been going through and what we've been looking into. If it's going to be totally revamped, that we're not caught off guard. That, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, and part of the scope of this is for them to evaluate our existing comp plan and the goals and objectives and actually, okay, what did you accomplish? What steps did the city make to meet those goals? Almost, and then condense that and say, okay, what do you still want to carry over? What do you want to change? And so that'll be part of that original analysis from the kickoff.
Okay.
So they don't scrap the existing plan. They build upon what you've done before.
Okay.
Yep. And one last thing that that they threw in there in their scope is that if there are, say after the public forums and the surveys come in, and there's a consensus that the city wants to move in a certain direction or entice a certain type of business or activity, if there are sections in our code that are detrimental to that or kind of contradict it, they'll actually go through our city code and say, hey, we also recommend doing a code change because it doesn't match what your citizens are looking for. And that is something that we did not have previously either, so.
Further discussion?
Thank you.
Okay. Entertain.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a professional services agreement with H3 Studio in the city of Washington, Missouri, and amend the 2022 budget. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?
Yes.
Motion passed.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the city of Washington, Missouri to accept the proposal with Dude Solutions for the purchase of building and permitting software.
Patke.
Okay, motion by Pat. Introduced by Pat, sorry. Okay,
Discussion?
any discussion? Joe?
Just for the new council member and the mayor, if you speak into the mic a little more so we can understand,
Got it.
so the audience can understand. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Joe.
Thank you. Is that better?
There you go.
Sorry, gang.
Okay, good evening, council, again. Yes, this is new permitting, building department software, permitting and application software for the building department. Within your packet, I gave you a summary letter and the actual outline of what this is, the services provided. This is a $56,953.42 investment into your building department. We currently use a software program that was initially put into effect about 4 years ago. One of the goals of that software was to allow for online permitting and online payment. That has fell short. We've tried everything we can with the company to get that to work basically seamlessly, but it is a very complex program. It does not work very well. We have cross-training redundancy issues. So for example, if we don't have our permitting technician or our secretary, the individual there, it makes it very difficult for us to process payment or permits quickly. So this new software, we actually went to multiple jurisdictions and had our individuals who've never seen it before sit down with their building department and go through what it takes to get a permit from point A to point B. We felt that was very helpful because if that individual can do it, then somebody that doesn't use it at all can do it. So it provides that redundancy that we don't currently have today. It also has a very easy online application portal and payment portal that we currently don't have today. So those initial goals with the other software did get us through for 4 years. I'm not denying that, but we are spending about $18,000 a year in licensing fees, and I don't think it's wise to continue to throw good money at a bad product. So what this does is we have $18,000 budgeted this year. We will utilize that $18,000 to get this program up and running, and the migration happens over about 6 months, and then we'll budget the remaining amount in next year's budget. So we're not asking for a budget amendment. We're just asking to go in this different direction. And again, I'm kind of sick of throwing good money at a bad product. I can answer any questions.
We've gone through this as well with the Parks Department. They also switched over their software to make it more user-friendly. Part of our goal has always been to go ahead and make it easier for the citizens to go ahead at 24/7 to go ahead and get access, pay their permits, make their applications, and do those without having to come up to City Hall to go ahead and get those operations. So I think John's team's done their homework. They've been able to go ahead and see. They've tried as best they can to go ahead and make the existing software work, but it's just not working at any level that any of us expected. So.
Any further discussion?
Are there any yearly fees involved in this?
Yeah, it'll be similar to, it's about 18,000 in licensing fees as you proceed forward, which is typical. It's the same as what it would be. It's just that implementation cost to get you going is why the fees seem higher. Well, they are higher. So, but that's kind of standard. It's just the idea here is, and this is just a strategy across the board, is you gotta have tools that make everyone more efficient. Otherwise, why would you use them in the first place? And that's what we're dealing with right now, is it actually is causing more staff time to manage and babysit the current software, which is counterintuitive to what we sought out to do from day one.
Darren, you mentioned Parks Department went this new software, and we just did, but it's not with Dude, though, is it?
No, it's a different package.
Yeah. So is there any benefit to
It's
doing what
Park
they have?
Rec or whatever. Well, I think I don't know that Dude Solutions offers those types of things for Park Rec. It's specific for those types of users.
And the Tyler Technologies, which is what your finance software is.
Right.
We tried that, right? We tried to go with building department software through Tyler Technologies, right? That was the concept. Get everything on one platform. And then I think Parks tried to do Tyler Technologies
Correct.
solutions. And the issue is that what we kind of gathered is that Tyler Technologies is a finance software, and they purchased these other entities to try to make them work. Well, they just didn't support them like they should have. So the concept of trying to get them all married up under one roof is a good one. It just didn't work. So we went back to the drawing board and said, okay, can this software talk to the Tyler, which it can, and these people are versed, this is what they do, is this type of software. So it kind of, it makes sense, I think, to, again, not continue to throw money at a Tyler Technologies solution that really causes more problems.
So, new guy, sorry. What all does the software do? Are we talking about Blake goes out and does an inspection?
Yeah.
All the way from that to finished product?
Yeah.
I pay for him to come online versus coming here and giving cash to the office?
Correct. You would have the option to essentially upload your permit documents online. So your application could get done online. You apply right online. You upload everything online. You could pay online. You could pick your permit time online. That then gets kicked out to the inspectors. The inspectors do their inspection report on their iPads, comes back. I mean, it kind of creates that seamless work, throughout the entire workflow. So.
And in addition to that, how long, you say you've been working with this for a couple of years, I see in the verbiage here, what's a couple? Is it 10 years, is it 5 years,
Yeah,
is
so-
it 2 years?
Yeah, so the Tyler technology was 4 years is what we were working with. And that's when we realized, I think 4 years is enough time to know if it's going to work or not. And then this one, it's been about 6 months that we've been just investigating it, and we've been to City of Ellisville. There was another one I think we did a little field trip to as well. So,
And some of the, sorry, I wasn't going to talk the first year.
good. This is good. This
The-
is
First year?
Yeah, so I overpromised. What I'm trying to get at, and sitting in the meetings earlier this year, I heard talk of we need to get another inspector, maybe part-time. Is there any value to this, maybe making it easier for the inspectors to get in and out? I know you still got to get there, you still got to do it, and you got to leave, but is there some way that this helps us?
There is value to that, actually. We sat down a couple weeks ago and reevaluated the need for that inspector again, because our permits that were coming in actually dropped off quite a bit, which is, wintertime, but it was right after December we had that meeting, everything started to go downhill. Then you start watching the macroeconomics of things and interest rates, and you start to get this feeling of, okay, it's not as maybe going to continue on that trajectory. So we kind of put the brakes on that concept a little bit. But to your bigger question of, yeah, if the tools make you more efficient, then maybe you don't need additional people. And that's what this would do, is trying to squeeze out every piece of that efficiency out of that department. So we are still on hold with that. The building department's going through a little bit of a change in the next couple months with some personnel, so we'll be working through some things. So again, just you kind of got to stick with us. So, thanks.
Those are good questions. You can talk, Al.
Yeah, those are great, actually. Thank you.
As long as I don't cough too much, I'll try to get them out.
Any other questions, guys? I'll entertain a motion.
No, second reading.
Second reading, sorry. I'll get used to this.
We'll get you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the city of Washington, Missouri to accept the proposal with Dude Solutions for the purchase of building and permitting software. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Altmeyer,
Aye.
Bear,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Coulter.
Yes.
Motion passed. Thank you, guys.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Gerald H. and Betty M. Parmentier.
Holtmeyer.
John? John's got it.
Okay. Last fall, a property owner along International Avenue, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around everybody, brought to our attention a concern of one of our storm sewers on, I believe, East 3rd Street. You're looking at it right now on the screen, but there's an inlet here that actually collects water from the other side of the street and then down the hillside from the north. That water then is diverted via an earthen berm. You can kind of see it here, earthen berm, actually down to the shooting range that just got approved tonight. Give you an idea kind of where you're at. So that property owner came in and said that that berm was actually eroding out. It's obvious that it's a point source from this inlet that's causing the erosion of that. I went back to the files that we always do research on these type of things. The city has been there a handful of times. I talked to some long-term employees, a handful of times, street department specifically, over the last couple decades to replace and do some work on that berm. I could not find anywhere where we actually had any temporary construction easements to do that work. So my guess is a property owner just had a concern, we went up there and fixed it, life went on. The right way to do that is to get a temporary construction easement. He's going to donate it to the city, no problem. And then we all identify what's going on. So all this is the acquisition from the city of a temporary construction easement to fix a point source erosion problem on private property that is clearly from our storm sewer. And we would go in there, grade it. We probably would sod it just so I get good stand of grass right from the get-go. He's agreed to water the sod, and life would go on.
It isn't enough erosion to put riprap at the initial?
There already is. Actually, we poured there's actually a little concrete swale that's there that has a bunch of street grit and things over time builds up.
Okay.
So there's a concrete, swale underneath of it. So.
John, and then this is going to be ongoing. We're going to do it again.
You'll do it at some point. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't remember, nobody would tell me the last time they were there. It's been over 10 years. Yeah, at some point, the potential is that you would do it again, yes.
So what's the potential of piping it to, where is it daylight to? The creek?
Actually, the daylight's 5th Street. So this is the Armory right here. This is an inlet, or not, I'm sorry, not the Armory, the shooting range that you just approved tonight. There's an inlet right here, so you'd be piping it all through these yards. If you do that, you'll kill every one of these trees, and the cost to do that really don't outweigh us going up to the street department every once in a while.
Right. In looking at this, it just seemed odd to me that we had an inlet that daylighted into a backyard of a handful or different yards from International and Terry Lane both. But essentially, it just goes in the inlet, back out onto their backyards,
Yep.
and flows down to the backyard of the shooting range and then into another inlet there.
Correct. Happens frequently
It happens frequently?
in town. Yes, it does.
Okay. I guess I would look for a better long-term plan than just fixing the erosion and doing it again.
Well, you always weigh out your pros and cons, right?
Right. I'm listening.
And in this situation, I mean, the cost to do that, I mean, we have other stormwater issues around town that definitely would exceed, I think, putting pipe in the ground at this location. But when the property owners, they haven't voiced concern about that water going across their yards, it tends to, dissipate in velocity as it goes down.
Right.
It's just right at this one location. I just don't think that the cons of doing this would outweigh the pros, because again, I think that every one of these trees are going to be destroyed. You're going to cause other issues to those property owners by pursuing that.
And John, there's no, there's no way to tie in there to the east, anywhere there?
There's no
nowhere there?
storm sewer.
Excuse me?
The only storm sewer you see is what I've showed you. It's typical, especially in this older part of town, the eastern part of town. There was just no storm sewer put in.
But that's obviously the lowest spot between International and Terry Lane by far. I
It
mean,
is.
By
All the water goes
long
into this ditch. My guess is this was always a ditch. Well, obviously, I mean, that's really big guess there, right? But a large ditch, and then the road actually got put in, and they just piped it from one side to the other.
Okay, fix it good.
Well, the other, and the property owner too probably does not want maybe a permanent pipe in there, that the city would want to go ahead and get a storm sewer easement. They may come,
Yeah.
you may have somebody that comes to you at another day and say, I want to go ahead and build a house right there on that lot.
Right.
And then they would go ahead, it'd be up to them then to redirect and fix that problem permanently.
Correct. So it's your street department doing the work. I mean, you're looking at, sub $2,000, $2,500 fix on something that lasts 10 to 15 years. It's
That's
fairly
fine.
minor.
Okay.
Now, this is a lot different. I would say this is a lot different than, creeks and things in town, because again, I specifically called out, it's clearly a point source coming out of our storm sewer system, right? Creeks, things like that, I mean, those aren't owned by the city. So, we got to keep that in mind too, that's where the distinction is somewhat made here is. It's clearly caused by our storm sewer system. Could have been done better back in the day, yes, but it's what we're dealing with today.
Anybody else? Second reading, please.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of an easement deed by and between the city of Washington, Missouri and Gerald H. and Betty M. Parmentier. Wessels? Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?
Yes.
Okay, we passed the ordinance.
Thank you.
Commission, committee, and board reports. Item 8A is your preliminary plat approval for Highland Meadows Plat 6.
Holtmeyer.
All right. Good evening. The first item that we've added tonight is the extra preliminary plat for Highland Meadows Plat 6. We had the final plat on here. We need to adopt the preliminary first. But the subject property here is Highland Meadows Development. This is High Street running south from Highway 100. That's what we've been calling the High Street Extension the past few years. As you know, this area here was just annexed last month and brought in into the city under a couple different zoning districts in order to be able to develop residentially. Tonight, they're asking for the plat approval to actually get those properties recorded and able to be sold off. The first one here, Plat 6, is actually on the west side of High Street where this red X is and the purple. It is zoned Senior Community District. Again, that's one of the older zoning districts we had prior to 2017 that was approved before we redid the code. It's still zoned that way, and they're requesting to break off a lot here, so it'll be called Lot 4A. You can see here, it'll be 11 acres in size. We'll have access to the High Street extension. It does have all the appropriate easements and lot size and everything, so there's no comments or questions from staff. We do recommend approval of this. Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed it last week and voted in favor to accept the plat as well. And then the reason that it actually has a preliminary plat and final plat on the same agenda is because of the fact that we have a development agreement to build the road down here. There is no need for a performance bond from the developer, which allows them to go ahead and get this recorded as is. So we are recommending approval of the preliminary plat and final plat for Plat 6.
Can you go back to the previous map, Sal, and just make sure that everybody understands that development agreement that we just passed at the last council meeting, I guess, or the one before last?
Yeah. So the development agreement that we passed was in order to get this connection done for High Street, and since it's on a major connection on our comprehensive plan, is to have High Street connected all the way south to the Marquardt Farm, and then have Sophia Drive and Autumn Leaf connect over as well. And so that is part of the next item that we'll get to on the next plat.
Is the expectation for Plat 6 that there will be more senior development on that?
I believe so, yes. The developer has said that at the last week's meeting at Planning and Zoning that Riverbend Estates will kind of mirror what they've already built on the next phase. Just double it.
Got a place to go.
Yeah. Gotta keep the options open. Is the old stuff?
Any other questions
can
for
arrange
Sal, you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're only approving Plat 6.
So this is for the preliminary plat for Plat 6, and then they'll have an ordinance for the final plat.
Right, okay.
Okay. Do we need a motion?
Entertain a motion.
Entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Patke makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Holtmeyer. All those in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
An ordinance approving the final plat of Highland Meadows, Plat 6 in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Patke.
And introduced by Patke.
And again, this is just the final plat that allows them to record this lot 1A, or Lot A, 11 acres, to be able to sell off, so.
Okay. And
Any other questions, council?
any other questions, you guys, about this? Okay, second reading, please.
An ordinance approving the final plat of Highland Meadows, Plat 6 in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Wessels? Reed?
Yes.
Patke?
Yes.
Heidrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs? Coulter?
Yes.
Okay, the ordinance is approved.
Preliminary plat approval, Highland Meadows, Plat 7.
All right, and this next one is only for acceptance into the minutes. And again, this is the preliminary plat for the next phase. So you can see here, these other two parcels I have highlighted here. You have the southern portion that will connect to Sophia, which is R1D, single-family residential. And then to the north, this orange is R1C, single-family attached, which means it allows for duplexes. So both single-family, just different styles of development. This southern side, the southern portion that connects to Autumn Leaf will mirror what was built in Autumn Leaf, and then to the north here will be traditional duplexes with shared walls down the middle. And so here is the plat that was submitted. There are 30 lots proposed in this I'm sorry, it starts at lot 7. There's 23 lots proposed in this development. Lots 7 through 22 are all the single-family R1D, single-family residential, and so all of them have to be at least 7,500 square feet in size, which they are. You can see quite a few of them are much larger.
Okay, right.
And there is a proposed Sophia Drive, so that street name obviously has been approved with that connection. And then both streets here, Walter Way and, I'm blanking.
Greta Court? Greta?
Greta Court, yes, thank you. Those street names have also been approved by 911, that there's no confusion with them being too close to anything else in the district. This street here is 30 feet wide, leading up to a 96-foot cul-de-sac, which does meet city code because of there's less than 10 units on this. Sophia Drive will be 35 feet wide, matching the existing Sophia Drive in Autumn Leaf. And then again, this portion to the north, these are all lots that are larger because they are R1C, single-family attached, meaning they can actually have 2 units on them with a shared wall right down the middle with traditional duplexes. So we do recommend approval. I know there's a lot of easements going on in there, but we reviewed it at site plan. They have all the appropriate utilities, stormwater easements for this. And then the reason this is only a preliminary plat is they will have to come in with either a performance bond or actually put these improvements in prior to a final plat being approved.
Okay.
Or some of them lots gonna be pretty steep, since that grade is,
This looks like it from this topography, that you could have, yeah, some walkout basements, but, and Kurt is here tonight if he wants to speak on it. But it looks like you may have some decent topography there, so. Let Kurt come up. The roads themselves don't meet the grade requirements.
My name is Kurt Understall. I'm the proposed developer of this tract of land. To answer your question, Joe, we're waiting on the consultant to final grade it, but they're going to sit up high over top of that existing creek, and there should be rear walkouts, and then we're going to try to leave that existing creek area that is draining the Brinker Farm and Podry Road area. We're going to leave that creek alone. So the creek to the north, we've currently getting that permitted to be a detention structure. That was in the city's 1998 design plans to be a detention basin. So 2 creeks merged together there on the Jasper Farm. kind of challenging little tract of land to do something with, so.
Yep.
Unless the city wants another park.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thanks.
Okay.
Any other questions?
If, any other questions? No?
Make a motion to send it.
Okay. Motion by Patke, second by Holtmeyer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Mayor's report.
What do you got for us, Doug?
Gosh. I plead new guy. Just, I'm really looking forward to working with you guys. Thank you. And have some patience. I'll get it eventually. Hopefully next meeting.
City Administrator's report.
No report, but we do have a few items to discuss in executive session.
Council comments.
Your Honor, if you don't mind, I know it's a learning curve, and I can appreciate that from anybody. I'm been here 9 years, and I'm still learning. Stop me if I can't say this, but I just want to, if it's a resolution, we wait, listen to the resolution. If we want to accept it, someone makes a motion, someone makes a second, we all vote, and this resolution passes or fails. If it's an ordinance, one council member introduces that ordinance. And here's the part you can stop me on. I've learned this the hard way, and I'm trying to tell you guys this from the first time. This is not a rule, but appreciated, I guess. I've sat on parks as a parks liaison for 9 years. If it has to do with the Parks Department, if it has to do with, I was emergency services for a long time, so, and along with Councilman Hydrich. So if it's a police department reappointments or things like that, you kind of give those people the opportunity to introduce that ordinance. This development is in Ward 3. I take that as my ward. Again, not saying no one else can't, but I'm just saying, out of respect, that's just kind of how I've gone about my business as a councilman in introducing those things. I talked to Councilman Holtmeyer about this last week, and he said, I think everyone needs to know kind of our thought process. And, you know, I'm sure the newbies are going to be like reluctant to introduce and that kind of thing until you get your feet wet. I get that. I was there too. There's no doubt about that. But I guess just give the person to do, you know, Joe sits on the airport committee. So if we're talking about the airport and there's an ordinance to approve, the respect of that. Mark, Hydrich, Wessel, do you guys have anything to add to that? You kind of agree with what I'm saying? We kind of give that agreement, and instead of looking and, hey, it's your turn or my turn, that's kind of how it's been. And again, not that that has to be the way, but as we get more familiar, that's the way I think would be the best way to go forward, I guess, as far as that goes. If you sit on a liaison committee, it's an ordinance to do with them, by all means, introduce that. And then, in addition to that, when you are on 353, or you are on planning and zoning, and Mark has alluded to that tonight, when we do have a controversial, something controversial, he lets us know that planning and zoning did approve it, 8-0, or whatever it may be. So it's nice to have that. I do the same thing for the Parks Department, let you know their discussion, their approval, and if it is controversial, there kind of how that vote went too. So again, as you get your liaison appointments, as you get your feet wet, you'll be more in tune to it. In the meantime, if you're not comfortable, just give me a tap and we can introduce. But I just want to kind of throw that out there as a, you know, as an introductory, I guess, so we kind of get all on the same page.
Thank you.
Darren, anything else there as far as?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Your Honor.
Good words.
Good job.
Yeah, yeah.
City Attorney's report. Public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters pursuant to Section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Wessels?
Aye.
Reed?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Hydrich?
Aye.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Bear?
Yes.
Briggs?
Yes.
Coulter?